All right, glad to be joined today by Coach Tyson Beacham. Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you started to where you are now, and kind of what your perspective is going to be on this.
Yeah, first things first, thanks for having me. I appreciate all the information that you're putting out right now, especially during this time. We got a little bit more downtime than normal, so it's always a good way to keep busy. But yeah, just a little bit about me, about my background. So I played Division III football at Birmingham Southern, and then my coaching career started at Berry College in Rome, Georgia. I was there for 5 years, 4 years as the wide receivers coach. And it was a pretty neat situation to neat program to be around just because it was a brand new program. I joined in the second year. So I kind of got to see the program build from the ground up. And now I'm the wide receivers coach at Wittenberg University up in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah, so Alabama, Georgia, Ohio.
That's right. Yeah, and I grew up in Georgia, so I
Yeah,
was all down the southeast, and then made the move up almost a year ago now up to Ohio. It's been a good transition.
awesome, Coach. We're glad to have you. I've been in Georgia and I'm from Alabama, so but I never made it to Ohio. But uh, you never say never. Maybe the time's
That's
coming.
right.
But what I'm trying to do with this is put as many different perspectives together on college recruiting because one, I don't think I'll bring on necessarily a parent, but I want it to be from a parent perspective at times. I want it to be from a kid's perspective at times, but all the different aspects of the levels of colleges. My experience in 20 years of doing this is people are so ignorant of how this works until it's almost a little too late. And
Yeah.
I said the word ignorant for those, I don't mean to insult anyone. Ignorant means you don't know any better. It doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
stupid. It means you don't know any better. And I have seen so much ignorance in recruiting where it gets to the very end and they basically have Barry and Birmingham Southern. Those are
Yeah.
two schools we get a lot. And that's a shock to them. And
Mm-hmm.
we kind of tried to guide them that direction for months, but it's a shock to them now. So I I put this together not to tell those stories, but to help people, that anybody that's interested, uh, that's a coach. I know we got coaches who want to know, how can I help my kids?
Yeah.
And then we got parents who want to know, how can I help my kid? And then we got kids that want to know, what is realistic for me?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if we can answer all three of those, my hope would be over a series of meetings, we would have people of all those levels joining in. So I would love to hear your perspective as a when you were a prospective student athlete, all the way through what you guys deal with now and what y'all did at Berry and Birmingham Southern as well. So really excited about this part of it. I think we could help a lot of people, even beyond the normal people. I think we're helping on how to handle this. So, I use this stuff for years. This is not earth
Mhm.
shattering. You
Yeah.
want to play college football, you got to have these five things. I think that, everybody talks about grades, but, at your level, especially, the grades are paramount, and they got to be good enough to play.
Yeah.
I mean, I, they got to have some character enough where if you made steps 1 and step 2, then they at least going to ask about step 3 and 4. And
Yep.
then I think the last one is one we can harp on a lot today, which is flexibility. I think it's easy for a ninth grade kid that's the best player on their ninth grade team to feel like they got a chance to play college football, and they probably do if they're the best player on the ninth grade team. But it's very likely it might be in Ohio. They may live here in Georgia and it's in Ohio. They
Yeah.
don't get to just pick necessarily that it's all going to work how they want. So when you look at those things, what would you say stands out, or what's some advice you would give for anybody that's looking at those steps and seeing this beginning process?
Yeah, I mean, obviously starting at the top, that's the most important thing, because if you don't have the grades, if you don't have the test score, then it doesn't matter. You're not going to end up playing where you want to play, and that's the first thing that every coach is going to ask about, no matter what level it is. When they're talking to the high school coach, or if a kid hits them up on Twitter, or whatever it is, the very first question is going to be the grades, the GPA, and the test score right there, because if you don't have that, then you can't move forward. And then obviously it moves on to ability. Do you have the ability to play at the level that you want to play at? And you talked earlier about that a lot of kids, their last couple options come down to Division III football, and a lot of people don't understand how good that football is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Division I football is what it is, but the Division III football, it's still grown man football. It might be, it's not at the top, but it is pretty special. So you get kids got to be realistic. Coaches got to be realistic. Can a kid play at the level that he thinks he can play at, or that his parents think he can play at? The character, that's a huge one for both programs that I've been involved with. Because if you have the first two, but if you don't have what fits with our program, what aligns with our culture, then it doesn't matter how good of a player you are. We're probably going to take a pass on you. And I think a lot of kids do understand that, that they kind of know where they're at. They kind of know where they fit. And then obviously work ethic. We're going to talk to the high school coach a lot about that. We're going to get. We don't want a guy that has all the ceiling to work with from ability, but he's not being able to put the work ethic in, because he's not going to last very long in a successful program. And then you talk about the flexibility. I think you hit the nail on the hammer there. I think it is exactly what you said. Kid's got to be realistic with where he thinks he can play, and he's got to keep his options open. He can't limit himself to 2 or 3 schools that he really wants to go to. He's got to be able to open himself up a little bit.
Absolutely. We got a few people in here too listening. So if you got a question, just put it in the chat, and I'll make sure we ask Coach at some point, and we can get it in. So any questions, put in the chat. But I think the thing to think about on these, I put these slides up for all these courses we're doing like this, but some of them are just bullet points. Like, it's not that one of them's more important or there's an order. In this particular case, I feel like there's an order. Like, I did this 20 years. People came to me, they said, Coach, who you got? Honestly, they really did ask for grades first, because, look, if they didn't have the grades, why is Birmingham Southern talking to me when they can't get them in? So they really didn't want to know about kids that couldn't get in. So the first question was always grades, always. That's with the University of Alabama all the way to Birmingham Southern right now, and everything in between. If you gave them the right answer on grades, they did go to step 2, which was ability, and they need to know if the kid can play. They want to see some film. They want to, evaluate him, whether it's on their own or right there in front of them. They might want to see how tall they are, how big they are, whatever. But they're on that next thing. If they didn't like what they saw there, then it stopped there. And each one of these can stop there. I think that's something people need to understand, just being realistic. If you made that second step, then they made it to step 3, which now you're down to probably 5 to 10% of the kids, to be honest, that made it through step 1 and 2. And now since there's such a small group of people that make it through step 1 and 2, they can start being a little picky. And I think at the big time programs, maybe they take a chance on a kid, but it doesn't happen as much as you think. There's such competition that usually if your character is bad, you've been in trouble a lot, nobody can vouch. They just move on. There's so many other good players out there. And then they want to know how you work. They want to know how you practice, how you work in the weight room, stuff like that. And then finally they offer you, like, okay, those 4 things happen. You got the check 1, check 2, check 3, check 4. Now we're on 5. And okay, we want you in Ohio, Wittenberg. We want you at Berry. Okay. Now you got to figure out if that fits what you're going to do, or are you just playing a game or something with these people? Because I know y'all get a lot of that too. So the first 4, I think the colleges control, and I think the last one, the athlete control. They've got to say, am I genuinely interested in this place that they offer me? And my advice to any parent listening to this ever, any kid listening to this, is don't, I wouldn't entertain a lot of people that I wasn't pretty sure I would go if they were interested. Some of that, I know it's nice to get attention, but they got to look past that. You got to look past that and work on am I wasting this person's time? And are you hurting another kid? Because you can only take so many. And if you guys are
Yeah.
counting on this one, something I want to say real quick, Coach, and I don't want to preach too much. I want you to talk. But I want people to realize when they're listening to this, how many good football players there are, or how many good basketball is even tougher, how
Yep.
many good players there are out there, that if you're the best player in your region in Georgia, we're in Georgia, football's big, we got a ton of great football players in Georgia. If you're the best tight end in the region, that means there's 8 regions in your classification, and there's basically 8 classifications for 2 single A's. So that means you're one of 64 people who can say they're the best tight end in the region in Georgia. And then there's 50 states. So if you quantify that across the states, you're one of 300 and something people who can say they're the best tight end in their region. Georgia's taking one tight end. Like Georgia Southern's taking one tight end.
Yeah.
Like don't act like it's a slight. If this D2, D3, and AI school is interested in you, that's an honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not even interested in all 300 of them tight ends. They're not.
No.
So, and that's all the best tight ends in the region. So I don't want to get too off on that tangent. I want people to put themselves in that perspective. You can be a damn good player and still not have many options. I mean, that's just something I don't think people ever understood.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that at the Division III level, the programs that are really good, that have good tradition, is because they've been able to get those kind of kids, which is always good to see. Because like you said, maybe the best player in one that he wants to get, and then he ends up falling to another school that's lucky to have him, where it ends up being a really good fit.
Absolutely. We got a question from one of the guys listening. It says, Coach, we all know social media plays a big role in drawing attention of colleges. It does, absolutely. If a 2021 guy gets a D2 offer right now in the spring, does him posting that offer help draw attention, or does it turn D1 schools off? Go ahead, Coach. I'll answer after you.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't think it turns them off, because coaches at the D1 level are going to rely a lot more on what the high school coach is saying about them, and not necessarily looking at Twitter, seeing what offers he has. There's no telling what kind of improvements he makes from now moving forward through the summer into the fall. I think it's a good question, but no, I don't think it would turn those Division I coaches off.
No, I think so too. I agree with that. I think that the thing to keep in mind when you're playing these groups against each other kind of is I still wouldn't waste a lot of time on somebody I didn't intend to go. So here's my advice to Mr. Blackstock in this case. If the D2 offer is one you're genuinely interested in taking, post it, be proud of it. If it leads to something bigger, good for you. But if it doesn't, you be really proud of that and you be happy. If you're trying to use that to get another one, it usually comes across disingenuous, and it may have a negative impact to some degree. Now, I will tell you this. An offer is always better than no offer. And I can't tell you how many times I've had a college coach, and if you follow me, I got a lot of college coach friends. I love them. But some of them kill me with some of these comments. And I know high school coaches kill them with some comments. But they come in and you like a guy. They like him. They like him. And they ask, well, how come nobody's offered? Well, I don't know how come nobody's offered it. That's for you to tell me. You be the one to offer him. But what I'm saying is for his question, if you put out there, I have this offer, at least somebody offered. Because I'm telling you, no offers is not a great place to be, because at that higher level, now if you're trying to get into the Division I level and you got no offers, everybody starts kind of looking at you like something's wrong with you because you have no offers. And it's not the kid's fault. That's one of the times I get frustrated at the colleges, where I feel like if they like them, they should offer them regardless of who else offered them. But I'm just going to be honest, guys. Coach Wheeler said here, 2 guys are scared to be the first one to pull the trigger. That is spot.
It is.
Everybody's scared to do that, and I don't understand it. I never coached a day in college. I love being in high school, but I feel like I would either like people or I wouldn't, and it wouldn't matter if other people liked them. But I'm telling you, it's like a high school beauty pageant sometimes. So don't be scared to promote your offers. I don't love people promoting offers trying to get other offers as that being the only reason to do it, because I feel like that's not fair to the
Yeah.
school that did show you some love and pulled an offer on you. You know, I
Yeah.
always have respect for that one that gave the guy the first offer,
Yeah.
because it is so hard to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and like you said, if the school is a school that a kid can see himself playing, then I think it's definitely something to put out there. If you're only putting it out there to try to pull some other schools in, I think you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Right. And you don't want to get on that level. Now, granted,
Yep.
there's reasons to do that, but you don't want to get on that level. I wrote down a couple things to ask you, Coach, and one was from each perspective. So imagine you're a parent asking this question and you answer it. So I'm a parent and I say, Coach, my kid's in the 10th grade, 11th grade, whatever. What do I need to do to help my kid get a scholarship, or even just at your level, sometimes getting accepted to be in maybe even getting an academic scholarship? Or what do I need to do to help my kid? That's a good way to answer.
Yeah, I think it boils down to a couple different things. Um, Obviously, I think the first one is making sure you're staying active, as far as staying on them about schoolwork. It all comes back to that very first point we talked about, is the grades. You got to make sure that your son, he really wants to play college football. A lot of times, parents really want their kids to play college football where the kid might not want to play. And then it ends up hurting a lot of different people. It ends up hurting the parents, the kid, the schools that are reaching out to the kid. So you got to make sure your kid really wants to do it. And the last thing I would say is, just making sure that you're giving them the opportunities, whether it's taking them to a summer camp, whether it's taking them on a visit, taking them to a junior day, whatever it is, different opportunities to be able to be in that position when the time does come, to be able to do that.
Coach, that's some great answers. I think that what happens is, one, it's always irritating when a parent is asking me this question and their kid has a 1.3 GPA or
Yep.
something.
Yep.
Like, take care of everything you can do first, and then we'll obviously help. Now, most of them aren't like that. Most of them had the GPAs and all, but something else that came to mind when I thought of this question was, you as a parent can also do your homework and you can learn more about the school. Let's talk about Berry College, because it's down the road from me and you were there and I know it. This is
Yeah.
one of the best colleges around. Fantastic place, fantastic program. It's expensive.
Yep.
Okay. That's not a secret. That's not something you can't
No.
look out and find on the internet. But there are kids out there who, they love Berry. They go to the junior day. They talk to the coaches. They get to know them. They like them. The coach likes them. Blah, 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 blah. They get to the day and they're like, Coach, is too expensive. Well, was that news to you? Because if it was, you probably didn't do your homework. So if I'm a parent, I'm going to look at, like, how does this work? If my kid goes to Georgia, he shows up and pays nothing. If my kid goes to Berry, we're going to have to figure it out, academic money. And
Yeah.
this is how much the tuition is. This is about what Hope in Georgia, we got Hope Scholarship. This is about what it'll cover. Start figuring some of that realistic stuff out. Don't get hit with this
Yep.
when you finally go to get offered and you finally have your official visit and you're sitting in front of the head coach, like you're shocked that it costs X amount of money to go to school and you can't. That's always something I thought you could have done your homework earlier. When you were
Yep.
worried about stuff that didn't matter, you could have been worried about that.
Absolutely.
And that stands out to me. Coach Wheeler said, he listened to us. He said, he had a mom and dad wanted to play college football more than the kid did. We've all had that.
Yep.
Because, I'm just telling you that getting on the same page there is huge. And I think educating, one thing I'm trying to do right now, and I'm probably talking too much, but I want Coach to educate people too on, I want them to understand what they are getting when they sign up. Like, I just don't think there's a good education of what's different from Ohio State University, to what you guys.
Yeah.
They think maybe they can't play at Ohio State, but like you guys would be lucky to have them, and that's not true. Y'all got a ton of people to pick from,
Yeah.
you know, and they ought to be happy to have you. But it's going to cost money, and it's going to be a lot of work, and they're going to have to be sit on the bench, and they're gonna, you know, all this stuff that is realistic. If you get your mind around that, and the kid wants to do it, he's going to be successful.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, he is really not, and there is nothing that coach can do about it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, and that's what it comes down to. So much is, does the kid really want to do it? Does he really love football, or does he love being recruited? Because kids think they love football, they think they want to play football at the next level. But in the end, really, they just love being recruited. They love getting the attention from all these different schools and having these different options. And when that happens, most of the time, it doesn't end well. Most of the time, a kid's going to end up, maybe he ends up somewhere he doesn't want to be, or maybe he ends up not playing for very long, whatever it is. If a kid really loves football and he's a good player, he's going to be a good fit somewhere. You just got to find where the right fit is for you.
absolutely. Had another question. So they got a school. The school's 2,300 kids, so they don't play a lot of sophomores. So the question was, do you need to send names and information out to coaches of freshman and sophomore kids, or wait until there's varsity film? You know, that probably depends on the level that you
Yeah.
expect them to play, to be honest. But my opinion would be, I don't see there's anything wrong with sending their name out. A lot of times, most colleges just like to start building some kind of database of names. Nobody's getting offered because their name's on the list. So, but you can get their name
Yeah.
on the list in that 9th and 10th grade year. But like where coach is, I would assume y'all are mostly working with the upcoming seniors and seniors, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I think for us, it's a little bit different, just because our recruiting process happens a little bit later, because kids are waiting to see if they're getting the Division I offer, if they're getting the Division II offer. So it happens a little bit later than it for us than it does at the higher levels. But like you talked about earlier, if you think a kid is a good player on his freshman team, then I think nothing bad can come from go ahead and getting his name out there now. And then once he does have that varsity film, that's where guys are able to start evaluating film from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely doesn't hurt. I don't know how much it helps, but it definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And Coach Wheeler, I know, is on here listening too. He's at a big school not too far from me. So he can attest to that even better, because he's at a big school. They probably don't play a lot of 10th graders either.
Yeah.
So you can jump in and answer that one on the chat, Coach. What about from players' perspective? So we get this question nonstop, right? Everybody's getting slept on, everybody's whatever, which is all a bunch of garbage, by the way.
Yeah.
But a legitimate question: how would a kid get exposed more to people like you?
Yeah. I think that with social media these days, it makes it so much easier to college football coaches, with Twitter especially, because most college coaches are going to have their DMs open, where kids can send them a message. Um, it, First thing I want to say about social media is, on Twitter, make sure your real name is
Yep.
on your Twitter profile. Don't put your nickname on there. If I'm going to search for some guy and I can't find him, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to track him down from there. So make sure you got your real first name and last name on there, and reach out to places where you know what the school is. You know where the school is. You know about the school. You know about the history of the program. Don't reach out to all 250 Division III teams out there, all right? Because most of them aren't going to be a good fit for you. So do your background work before you start getting on social media and reaching out to random coaches. Make sure you know something. It's a place that you can see yourself. So I think social media is a big one, and that's something that has changed so much in really the last 3 to 4 years, where in the past, coaches weren't really allowed to contact kids on social media. And now it's a whole different world. So there's so much more exposure now that kids can get than they could in the past. Even in my 6 years as a coach, I haven't been doing this very long, but that's one of the main things that have changed. And so obviously that with social media, and then the other one that I talked about with the parents, as far as get to different junior days, get to different camps, start to try to connect with coaches and start those relationships. So when it comes to your senior year, now you kind of have a good idea with what you want to do.
Well, I think with players, to add to that, because all of it's spot on, to add to that with players and getting exposure and all, that's great. But I always equate recruiting kind of to like a relationship to some degree. And, there's nothing wrong with you asking 800 girls out on a date, but if you don't ever learn how to take a girl out on a date, it's not going to end well for you. So my advice would be spend more time worrying about what you can control. So, yeah, you might not have as much exposure as you want right now, but you make sure that when a coach does see your film, when they do come evaluate you, they see something special. So get in the weight room, get on the practice field, learn what the coach asks you to do, be the best player you can be. So if you do get somebody to say yes and look at that film, they are really impressed. Like I said, it doesn't do you any good to go ask every girl in the world out if you don't have any plan to take them out. So just to get a coach, just to send 100 messages out on Twitter to get somebody to watch your film, if the film's not great, it really doesn't matter. You wasted a lot of time on that film. So spend time worrying about what you can control, like your grades, like your work ethic in the weight room, the stuff we talked about at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Because I think there's too much worrying about them wanting you to tell them some magic answer, and there's just not one. Now, one thing another guy asked about here was, what's a general timeline that a Division I offer isn't going to happen for a kid? If no offer or contact from D1, when's a good time for a kid to change his expected path? I would that's a great question, and that happens a lot. I mean, that's probably something I dealt with annually, to be honest. But traditionally, there's not a good answer to that question because people do come in at the last minute and offer people, so it does happen. But I would say if toward the end of your season, if you have no offer, but you have a Division II offer, Division III offer, you have an NAI offer, so I would really focus on that school. And like I said Barry earlier, so I'll use it again, I would really start talking about what does this cost? What is this team like? I start doing my homework where if we end up there, we're going to be happy with it. And then if you, at the last minute, Georgia comes in and offers you, then good for you, take the offer and move on. But around the end of that senior season, you're going to have, things are going to get real for you. What you got.
Honestly, right now, most of the Power 5 schools are done with their 2021 class. There are going to be some schools that maybe have kids fall through, whatever it is, that'll come in later and put an offer on a kid. But most of those schools are done with this next class. But I think you hit it right there with, if it doesn't come by the end of your senior season, then it's probably time to start focusing on something else. And if something does come along, then it is what it is also.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, if I had an offer from a Division II school or something, I would really be excited about that. And then if something better came along, it came along, but I would really be happy with what I had at that point. What about for high school coaches? I'm curious to hear this too. Sometimes it's hard when we're talking to each other, but I would love a genuine answer. What are high school coaches doing wrong that they can do better? Because let me quantify. I don't know one coach, and I know thousands of them, and I don't know one coach that's not trying to help kids. When parents say that this coach is not trying to help their kid, that's a bunch of garbage. That's not happening. But there are coaches that are better at it than others. There is some truth to that. So what are some things that high school coaches can do better to help their players?
For me, the biggest thing that I've seen is the high school coaches that I have the best relationships with are guys that are completely honest with me. They're not going to try to sell me on some bad player just so he can sign another kid on signing day. Honesty is the biggest thing that I've gotten from the relationships with all these coaches. But the biggest thing that has helped kids when I go into school and I sit down and talk with the coach, and he's able to hand me that Excel sheet that has every piece of information that I could ask for on there. It's got the name, it's got cell phone number, position, height, weight. The more information that is on that sheet, the more it helps me, because it gives me a couple different ways that I can reach out to a kid. If I don't have a cell phone number on a kid, it's going to be tough to try to track that kid down sometimes. So the more information that a coach can provide me is more likely that I'm going to be able to recruit some of the guys from his school. And I think it all boils down to just the relationships that college coaches are able to create with those high school coaches when they come into school. Like I talked about, just those coaches being honest with us, and that way we can sort of trust their evaluation and opinion as we move on through the process.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Coach. So true. We tried hard to do that. It's an odd dynamic because as a high school coach, you really, really want, you want to push these kids and you want to help
Absolutely.
your kids, and you see it through rose-colored glasses sometimes. I don't even know if coach is lying so much as they're just seeing it how they want to see it on if this kid can play or not play. But but I appreciate what all you guys do. It's every level you go down, it's actually a little tougher to recruit, because you're just, you guys are banging your head against the wall a lot, I know, or you go down these routes that end up being for nothing and then you have to start over. But I think it's great to educate people on this process, and Coach Wheeler asked, what columns are the most valuable on the spreadsheet? So like when you get something from a coach, what's the most valuable things on there?
Yeah, I mean, the things that I definitely want to see on there is obviously name, position, height, weight, cell phone number, and email. Those are the biggest things.
Social media, probably. Would you want the social media?
Yeah. So and then once we move on from there, it'd be social media, the address, parent information. But those first few things, a couple different ways that I can reach out to the kid.
Absolutely. Good answer. Well, I really appreciate your time, Coach. That's been great. It's always good to talk football and talk different people. And I think most of what we said would be applicable for the other sports as well. There's different processes in some of the other sports, but what pertains will be the same. So I really appreciate you stopping by and talking to me a little bit. And if I can ever help you out, let me know. Tell everybody on the way out how they can find you on Twitter or anything like that if they got highlight films they want to send you.
Yeah. So on Twitter, it's just Tyson Beacham. I think my handle is like tbeacham14. So it's pretty easy to find me.
Absolutely. All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate you. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.